everybody, and welcome to the Schooner Morning Show. I'm your host, Mark Prevo, and with me today is Beverley Heath in apartment 610. That's right around the corner from the Camden living room. You're the only one down there on the first floor, right?
Exactly. Other than administration, you know, I have Molly and you, and
right.
David even, and Sue, and
then the whole hub of the independent living is right there.
Post office, coffee bar.
There you go.
It's
perfect.
Very convenient.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The way the property was built, it goes like this and like this, you know, so it's a series of steps.
Yes.
And actually the second floor of Rockport is the ground level.
Yes, yes.
The first floor of Camden is the ground level, and then Searsport and Harpswell are on a step system. So they have a ground floor and then one. But the whole property just kind of goes up on an angle like that. Once you understand that, it makes sense. But until then, it's a little more difficult.
That's right.
But we are still in the year 2020. Hard to believe. We're all hoping that it ends very soon. And we're going into 2021, which probably isn't going to start too great. But a lot of positive news on the horizon. It should turn the corner and be pretty good, I think.
Let's hope.
Yeah, let's all hope for it.
Yes.
So, Beverley, tell me, where were you born?
Well, I always say that I was born in Rangeley, but it was actually Sandy River Plantation. And if you know anything about Rangeley, you know that Sandy River Plantation is a little plantation that is just before you get into Rangeley.
Coming up from Farmington. Right?
Yes,
along the Sandy River.
Exactly.
Way down upon the Sandy River.
And Sandy River had the CCC camps during the Depression, okay? And they were there in Sandy River right across from where I lived, okay? And I remember my aunt always telling me, you stay on this side of the street.
Right.
I was young.
Yeah. Now, what the CCC camps, what did they do?
Well, it was a welfare program. It was a work program, okay?
Yeah. What were they working on?
You know, that I don't know.
Not sure.
I was very young at the time. I don't recall what the...
Well, they could have been building a bridge or irrigation or anything. They had big projects.
Exactly. I think many of them I heard later, and I should Google that just for my own satisfaction, did some work at the Arcadia National Park.
Ah, nice.
You know, there's a lot of work. The Rockefellers gave a lot in for the National Park, and I think, and they also had a WPA, the two work programs during the Depression. Okay?
Yes. Yeah.
And people had it rough.
Yeah.
We didn't have any welfare programs back then, other than these two that Roosevelt started.
And you had to actually work in order to receive the money. They didn't just give the money like they do today.
And they provided housing for them too, you see.
Yeah, and that's something.
Yes.
So you grew up in the Sandy River area. Did you go to Rangeley schools or Farmington schools or?
We had a one-room schoolhouse in Sandy River, and I started school when I was 3 years old.
No
Was
kidding.
no restrictions.
Yeah, right.
And they thought that I needed that, so I started school, and I think that was up to the 6th grade. It was a one room, so there weren't too many kids, you know. But, hey, we learned anyway, so yes. And then at age 6, my father moved to Auburn, so I lived in Sandy River until I was 6 years old.
Yeah.
And then the rest of my life I lived in Auburn.
Do you think being schooled in a one-room schoolhouse, they had to teach to all the different ages? Do you think being younger, that younger children might learn faster because they're also hearing the lessons that are being taught to the older kids? Or it might be over their head and they're not learning a thing.
I really don't know that, but I do know that the first 5 or 6 years of a child's life, they absorb a lot.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah.
People don't realize, you know, that it's like drinking milk too. It was so important, and I know a few years ago, I guess it was 3 years ago, I had a bone density test, and when it was through, she came back and talked with me about it, and she said, God, your bones are so great. She said, you were off the chart with this test. She said, did you live on a farm? I said, I did. She said, you had all the milk you wanted, didn't you? I said, yes, I did. She said, it's so important for young children to have milk.
Wow. Wow.
See?
Yeah, all that vitamin D. And
yes.
Yeah.
And today, because they go with the coconut and they have all of these other flavors.
Right, right. Yeah. And it gets all processed and it's not as good as the original.
Exactly.
I got to ask you, and I almost forgot, were you born at home or were you born?
I was born at home on Christmas Day.
No kidding.
And my uncle, Andy, who was a half-brother to my father, delivered me.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
That's amazing. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Christmas Day.
Christmas Day.
Wow, you share quite a birthday.
Well, I really do, and I guess I don't think too much of it now, but as a child, the Christmas is the big thing.
Yeah.
Birthdays aren't really that important.
Yeah, exactly. And you get
now
2 for 1.
They're not important.
That's great.
Yeah.
So did you go on after you finished regular school? Did you go on to other schooling, or?
Well, because I went to school in Auburn, and I graduated from it a little.
Yeah.
And went on to, it was called Farmington State Teachers College then. Now it's the University of Maine at Farmington.
Ah, so you went back to familiar territory.
Yes,
that's great.
And I've just lived in Auburn.
So tell me, got married, children?
Yes, I have 2 children, a son who was the oldest, and he's retiring in August. I can't believe that.
Wow.
And then my daughter is 2 years after him, and she has been retired 2 years. School teachers can retire at 60, so teachers have a hard time.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No question about it.
Yeah.
And much more difficult today because of the lack of discipline. I know you and I have talked many times before about how parents used to stick up for the teacher, and now they stick up for the children, and make it a lot more difficult on teachers, I'm sure.
Exactly. Yeah. It was difficult.
Yeah. How'd you meet your husband?
I think I met him in Rangeley, I think. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
I used to go back and visit my relatives in the summer.
Yeah.
And I always stayed with my uncle, and I met him there. Yeah.
Very nice. Very nice. Yeah. But settled in Auburn. You all came back and settled in Auburn.
Yeah,
and
we all,
the children and everything like that. So I know that you worked. How did you end up in the career that you ended up in?
You know, I started out as a secretary in the city of Auburn, in the welfare. It was called welfare then, welfare department. Now it's general assistance, and I even think they've changed the name again. And I started as secretary, and the person that was running it got ill, and I had to take over. And it just went from there. I did a good job.
Yeah.
And eventually got promoted and took some classes, and then the position opened in Lewiston.
Ah.
And it was more money.
Yeah.
So I applied for that and got it.
Wow.
And I think John Orestes was mayor at the time I was there.
No kidding.
He was mayor of Lewiston, and I think it was the same time I was there.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't recall him at the time.
Right. And who would have known that you'd one day be living in one of his properties?
It's right.
Yeah. It's funny how things happen, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah. So tell me, what interests do you have, or what hobbies and things like that? What did you do for fun? Did you do some traveling? I
did not travel that much, but I like to knit. I love the musical shows, and attended Brunswick and Little Theater. I went a lot with my daughter. I brought my children to those shows, and they know those songs today.
Yeah.
And they, in turn, my daughter she has 4 children. She brought is still taking her grandchildren.
Yeah.
And now the great-grandchildren, mine, they would be her grandchildren.
Yeah.
And they go in the summer, and so I really enjoyed the musicals.
Amazing how those traditions just carry on through the generations.
Yes.
And there again, it goes back to how much you teach your children at young ages and what they become accustomed to. Exactly. And it really does steer the trajectory of those children. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Boy, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
And you said you like to knit.
Yeah, I do knit. I haven't knit so much since I came here because my shoulders have bothered me a little bit. And I have 6 joint replacements, and it's the shoulders that the knitting. So I don't knit as much anymore.
Right, right.
But I love to do the games on the computer, which I do.
Yeah.
And I read a lot.
Uh-huh.
I must tell you about reading. When I went from East Auburn School to Webster, entered the 7th grade at Webster School, at noontime we were on our own, and then we'd come back and finish the day. And some of the girls said, "Do you want to go to the library?" And I said, "I don't know where it is," because I lived on the farm in the country, right?
Yeah.
And I didn't know where the library. They said, "Well, come with us." So I went. I was flabbergasted with the books because I love to read.
Yeah.
I could not believe that there was that many books.
How many books in one place?
And then I could take some out.
Yeah.
And read them and bring them back. I could not believe it. I just was so excited. So that's
amazing.
And I'm still reading.
Yeah.
I'm still reading.
And still using the library?
I do.
Yeah, good, because they still do come and go, and you can get them. They've been great during the pandemic to still allow us to pick up books and bring them back and everything like that.
Suzanne is in charge of it over there, and she is she's such a good worker.
Yeah.
And she calls me and says, "Are you ready for some books?" She knows about how I read them,
Yeah.
And I said, "I do have a couple on my list," and I give them to her, and I said, I have some for you, and I'll leave them at the desk. And that's what I do. I write on it, Auburn Library.
Oh,
she picks them up and leaves the ones I want.
Yeah.
She's so good,
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So even in a pandemic, people are finding ways to make things happen.
That's right.
It's enjoyable, absolutely.
We have to stay positive.
Absolutely, we have to. The light is at the end of the tunnel.
Yes.
We're getting there. Still going to take a little bit of time, but hopefully things are going to get better. A little worse through the holidays, I think, because people... a lot of people did not listen to the advice, so...
Yeah, they're anticipating, I just heard it on the news, with the Christmas and the New Year's.
Knock on wood, we've been very, very lucky here.
Very lucky.
So hopefully it'll stay that way.
That's right.
Well, this has been great. This has been a fun, easy interview. Before we go, though, tell me, is there anything you'd want your friends or neighbors to know about you? Anything unusual? Anything about your hobbies or likes or dislikes? Or I know you like to read. I know you love Pictionary, so you do like to get out and participate in discussions and playing games.
And old movies. I love the movies.
The movies, yeah.
I always went to the movies with my children. We went, and I have continued that throughout. And in fact, my daughter will call me and say, "Do you know what movie's on tonight?" And then she reminds me of.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, so I still watch the movies. And, I watched Casablanca this weekend. I think 7 times I must have watched it. But I watched it again.
Now, how do you get it? Do you have a DVD player, or do you pull it up on the computer?
42 Turner Classic Movies.
Right.
No commercials.
That's right. I keep forgetting we have over 100 channels to pick from.
There's a lot of movies on, I mean, you can find something on this television, I'm telling you.
Oh, yeah.
Of interest.
Of 100 channels. I mean, it's amazing.
Yes, exactly. I mean, they have documentaries and historical things. There's many, many things on this channel. Yeah,
to catch your interest and really.
Exactly.
Yeah, I found that this weekend. We were supposed to get some work done around the house, and I happened to see a history or a documentary about the White House, how it was built, how it was remodeled, the different presidents that lived in. and I couldn't stop watching it. We were 2 hours with that program.
It's so good.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you can still learn.
Oh, always. Never stop learning, right, Bev?
No.
Never stop learning. And who says you can't teach an old dog new tricks? That is a lie. It's fake news. You can always learn. Well, Bev, this has been wonderful. Thank you very much for agreeing to come in for the interview. We're going to play it on channel 1390 on Tuesday morning, 10:05. So, folks, you tune in out there, and we'll keep them coming your way.